school, kids, Bible, somehow during school hours. You can't do that. That's illegal.
That's the opening of a slick, highly produced trailer for a film releasing late next month. Off-school property highlights LifeWise Academy, a program offering Bible education to students from elementary through high school. The subtitle of the film is, quote, "Solving the Separation of Church and State." The program buses students from their schools to nearby churches during elective or lunch periods for Bible lessons.
Many call it a movement. Others call it a loophole. A loophole so big, you could drive a bus through it.
It's controversial and growing quickly. In 2019, the year LifeWise launched its first programs, the organization claimed about $1.6 million in revenue. Just 5 years later, that number passed $35 million. For the 2025-26 school year, LifeWise expects to operate in more than 1,100 schools, serving nearly 100,000 students. It's part of a larger battle over the role of religion and religious freedom, and the separation of church and state. In Kentucky, the program has been offered by Marshall County Schools since 2023. Warren County Schools, which includes Bowling Green, voted 3-2 to reject a proposal from the group last week. McCracken County Schools is currently considering the program. This week on the Crossroads Suncast, how the program works, where it receives its funding, what it teaches, and the legal framework that makes it possible. I'm Bryce Patterson. It's in the top banner on the LifeWise website. Every week, tens of thousands of public school students legally attend LifeWise Bible classes during school hours. During School Hours is the name of the newest book by LifeWise CEO and founder Joel Penton. It's a simple value proposition. For families that want it, kids can take part in weekly Bible lessons as part of their regular school day. LifeWise says the result is better mental health, better behavior, and better performance in school. More broadly, these programs are called release time religious instruction. The legal framework goes back to 2 Supreme Court rulings. In 1945, a parent sued the Champaign County Board of Education in Illinois over a program bringing religious teachers into public schools. Those were outside religious educators, members of the Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish faiths, hired by private third parties to provide weekly religious instruction. That instruction was optional and conducted in school classrooms during school hours. The mother of one of those students argued that her son was ostracized by the other students for not attending those classes, and that the classes only included a small number of faiths and students were coerced into participating. The Supreme Court found the use of tax-supported property and the close cooperation with school authorities essentially allowed public school systems to push a religious agenda. That decision is followed closely by a 6-3 Supreme Court ruling in 1952, Zorak v. Clausen. Schools in New York City began offering a program where students were released during the school day, leaving campus to attend religious education classes elsewhere. That program is upheld by the Supreme Court and sets up the 3 central pillars of release time religious education. 1, those classes must be held off of school property. 2, they must be completely privately funded. And 3, parents must give their consent for their children to take part. So here's how it works. Once a week during a lunch break or an elective like music or art class, students walk or take one of LifeWise Academy's distinctive red buses to a nearby church. They take part in activities focused on a specific Bible story and a LifeWise quality. For example, a lesson about the Tower of Babel might begin with a guessing game, followed by a review of that passage from the book of Genesis, and end with a game where kids build a tower of their own. The LifeWise quality in that case is humility. The curriculum also includes worksheets to help students remember the details of different Bible stories. At the end of the period, students are returned to school. The curriculum is built to grow with students over the course of their education, with lessons tailored to elementary, middle, and high school students. LifeWise offers a sample of its curriculum for free online, featuring a few lessons for students at different grade levels. If you'd like to review the full curriculum, you can request access for 48 hours at a time. To do so, you have to provide LifeWise with your name, home address, cell phone number, and email address, and sign a legally binding contract stating that you won't republish the information or screenshots reproducing full pages of the curriculum. While it's possible to do that timed review, LifeWise says it does not have the legal rights to make the curriculum broadly available free of charge. The LifeWise site says requests are typically processed within 2 days. We put in a request for the full curriculum on Tuesday evening to align our access time with the production schedule for this episode. LifeWise gave us access to those materials around noon today. I reached out to LifeWise with an interview request on Friday, August 29th, and followed up Monday, September 1st, and yesterday, September 3rd. Yesterday, the group connected me with the Marshall County Program Director, who declined the interview. LifeWise Academy is a recipient of a 2025 Innovation Prize from the Heritage Foundation. You might know them for being the group behind Project 2025, a far-right plan for governance published in 2023. That proposal includes deleting terms like sexual orientation and gender identity, gender equity, and reproductive rights from all federal legislation. More broadly, that means gutting civil rights protections for LGBTQ students and significantly increasing barriers to abortion access. Project 2025 also calls for a significant reshaping of the federal government, breaking up the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and commercializing the National Weather Service. In response to the award, LifeWise founder and CEO Joel Penton wrote, quote, "We're grateful for the Heritage Foundation's leadership in promoting policies that strengthen faith, family, and freedom across our nation." LifeWise also receives support from Patriot Mobile, which advertises as America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. That organization also supports the Conservative Political Action Conference, the National Rifle Association, and Turning Point USA. In the social media comments of our past coverage of LifeWise, one parent raised concerns about the content the group is teaching. She writes, quote, "As a Christian, I'd want to know what was specifically taught. I'm concerned about blurring the lines between Christianity and Christian nationalism. Pastor Richard Gianzaro leads a Lutheran congregation in southern Indiana. He's the parent of students in Oldham County Schools, northeast of Louisville. That district is also considering a LifeWise program. Even as a Christian himself, he's been vocal about his concerns about LifeWise. He says, the ideology behind those organizations creates in-groups and out-groups.
They're trying to prescribe rules of life and ideal community and ideal humanity, which means they're trying to define from a very narrow viewpoint within Christianity, and which all Christians certainly do not agree, the role of women, the functionality of husband and wife, the opinions toward the LGBTQIA plus community, and national identities and things like that. So underneath this, when you're prescribing or legislating morals, right, it does not promote critical thinking.
McKenna Horsley is a politics reporter for the Kentucky Lantern. She's covered the debate over LifeWise in Oldham County.
One of the things that I've heard from parents who are concerned about having this program is, could it, maybe not be the type of Christianity that everyone believes in or practices? So it's definitely starting a conversation between not just people who maybe are not religious or something like that, and also not even really between different practicing faiths, but it is causing a conversation between the different sects of Christianity that we're seeing here.
Pastor Gianzaro says, building religious instruction into the school day, making it a class, gives LifeWise de facto authority, especially when it is the only option for release-time religious education. Throughout our conversation, he stressed that he doesn't doubt the genuine faith of the LifeWise team.
I do not view that other Christians who believe differently than me are not themselves real Christians.
He highlighted the parable of the Good Samaritan and the importance of using faith as a point of connection with others, especially people who are different from ourselves.
Number one, we are called to be the neighbor. And number two, neighborliness is not a quality we get to judge in others. Rather, neighborliness is the claim that other human beings have on our lives.
He attributes that thought to theologian and anti-Nazi dissident Dietrich Bonhoeffer. LifeWise says it's teaching kids moral values and ethics. That's a consistent theme in other social media comments on our past coverage. One parent writes, quote, "My daughter did it last year in Marshall County. They teach character building skills, folks, nothing else." A high school lesson about the creation of the earth highlights key takeaways. The section Genesis Confronts Alternative Worldviews says Genesis, quote, affirms the special creation of humans. This counters any evolutionary theory that proposes that life arose by random accident, and that human beings are merely highly evolved animals. It goes on to say that Genesis rejects the idea that, quote, our sex is something we can alter however we like. One more bullet here. Genesis, quote, confronts the modern notion that men and women are interchangeable. At the same time, it rejects any notion that men are superior to women or women superior to men. A later passage includes abortion on a list of consequences of broken relationships that also includes child labor, sex slavery, murder, and euthanasia. Pastor Gianzaro says, LifeWise teaches a limited set of values and is trying to fill a space that schools already cover.
We ought to be teaching kids how to think critically and view one another as neighbors, which, by the way, almost every elementary school I've seen has some list of core values. Be kind is a big one in Oldham County. Everybody's got a little be kind sign. Treat each other with respect and courtesy. These are basic ethics that emerge and arise within a learning community. And what LifeWise is trying to do is bring a dogmatic approach to redefine the learning community along the terms of religious.
For their part, LifeWise says the organization doesn't have a political agenda. On their frequently asked questions page, they write, quote, LifeWise is grateful for every opportunity to share our mission, and any collaborations are done without making an endorsement of any particular views or practices. Whether or not the LifeWise program appeals to you, it's optional and requires parental consent for kids to take part. The key questions then, does the program impact kids who don't join in? And does it have an impact on school resources? First, there's the potential impact on social dynamics. Critics have raised concerns about kids being ostracized for not taking part, and whether the conversations in their LifeWise classes filter back into the school.
The kids that go and participate, what happens when they come back, and maybe these discussions come up between students as well.
How does this impact counselors, mental health people, principals in the school, where you have a kid saying to another kid, oh, your mom and dad aren't married, or your mom and dad's divorced, so this one's gay. And children are their target market. Impressionable 4 to 14-year-olds who do not know how to have conversations about these things. Most adults in our country do not know how to have conversations about these things.
LifeWise says their teams are, quote, trained to respond to students' questions about the Bible's perspective on cultural issues, first and foremost with compassion, humility, and respect. Then, there's the question of whether public resources are going to these programs. LifeWise Academy is funded through private donations, driven by local fundraising efforts. In some states, LifeWise also receives money from businesses. Hobby Lobby funds programs in Oklahoma, for example. It's free for kids to participate, but critics say the program still impacts school staff. Worthington City Schools in Ohio rescinded its religious release policy late last year. According to one board member, that's because teachers said the program was distracting and often required their assistance.
It's dishonest to suggest that the other students and the staff, which is money and resources, are not going to be impacted by the movement of children out of a secure school location, as secure as our schools are, into a non-publicly screened environment with volunteers who are screened by the same sectarian group with the same beliefs.
A former teacher was set to direct the LifeWise Academy program in Firelands, Ohio, but was fired in 2024 after a past firing became public. She lost her high school teaching job in 2018 after allegations she took part in, quote, sexual and explicit communications with students. LifeWise CEO Joel Penton says that information didn't come up in her background check, instead appearing in her work history. He says that issue was solved before the program launched, and LifeWise welcomes the scrutiny. At least 12 states require that schools offer release-time religious schooling if parents request it. Tennessee, Ohio, Oklahoma, and South Carolina allow students to receive elective credit. LifeWise Academy is continuing to grow, and the legal framework that surrounds the program is still developing.
The Oldham County School Board has asked the Attorney General's office for an opinion about the legality of what they could approve, how that might affect the school day. Should they allow things like LifeWise at open houses to promote the program and that sort of thing. So we might see some more questions answered about the fine details of this as well over the next few months as school boards consider this.
Earlier this year, the Kentucky legislature approved Senate Bill 19, requiring a 2-minute period of silence at the beginning of the school day. That time to be used for prayer, meditation, or just mentally preparing for the day. A provision added to the bill late in the session also changed the process by which boards of education can approve moral instruction, and updated requirements for transportation and background checks. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear vetoed the bill. In his veto letter, he argues the law would be violated if kindergartners are unable to sit quietly in their seats. And he raises concerns that the bill doesn't define moral instruction, potentially opening the system up to abuse. The Republican supermajority in the state legislature overrode his veto. We're coming to the end of Season 2 of the Crossroads Suncast. For our season finale next week, I'm partnering with WPSD Local 6 anchor Jennifer Horbelt to explore the rising cost of parenthood. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening.